Hello, everyone. Wanted to say that I hope everyone had a chance to have a wonderful and filling Thanksgiving. Today is November 27th, and I know it's been, again, another delay in me keeping up with my weekly vlogs, but the reason I was absent this last week is I guess the universe finally decided, against my wishes, that it was time for me to finally come down with COVID. I will say that I feel that I am very fortunate. I had, I guess, from what I've been reading, a mild case due to the fact that my symptoms lasted less than a week. As far as mild, though, I'm really worried if that was a mild case, what a severe case would have been like. Fortunately, I have had both my initial vaccinations and my first booster. Even though I am allergic to the shots, I was waiting to get my Omicron variant booster, but nature decided it was going to give me its own version of Omicron before I was able to do that. There were definitely times where I felt, I felt like I wanted to curl up into a ball and die. My head hurt so bad, it felt like my ear was about to explode from all the pressure that was inside of it. But overall, I'm actually doing pretty good. As you can hear, I still have a little bit of a raspy voice. Very tired still. My energy level is about 40% of what it normally is. But with everything still going good, it's been 3 days since I've had a fever. I'm actually going to be able to get into the office tomorrow and be able to get back to some of my projects that are coming down the pipe. The last time I had a chance to put a vlog up, I had talked about when it was that I first knew that I was different. Going back to when I was 4 years old, little incident out in the parking lot of the apartments we were living at, where I just knew that I was going to be different when I grew up. What happened from there? Well, for the next, I would say, 4 to 5 years, nothing really much happened. I just tried to fit in. It was hard enough for me being the ugly duckling, the social outcast, the introvert, for reasons that honestly are quite embarrassing to go into, and I don't know that I'm ready to do that yet. But let's just say that I had some personal problems and some personal functionality issues, I will say, and that and the stress of that, plus the living situation I was in and everything else, really made things extremely difficult for me. So those 4 years, almost 5 years, up till I was about 9 years old, were just exercises in survival. You know, I wanted to fit in. There were times where I felt I fit in. But then again, there were times when I knew that I didn't. I was not a popular person. I did have a few friends. But again, there were a lot of things going on. And that did have an impact on my development during this very formative time of my life. Other than that, I hit 9 years old, and I thought I was just a normal kid. I really didn't know much of what was going on in the world, what was going on with me. And honestly, I was kind of an oddball. I do remember during this time, my first stepdad was in prison for armed robbery. Yay, stepdad. I lived with my mom, who was the getaway driver for that episode. So, yeah, there were definitely some fun things going on there. But I remember for that Valentine's Day would probably be 84. Valentine's Day of 84? Yeah, Valentine's Day of 84. We would constantly go on about every other weekend or every weekend. My mom and I would go down to see my stepdad down in Canyon City, Colorado, down at the prison there. And for that Valentine's Day, she had gotten me a little tiny stuffed koala bear. It had a t-shirt on that said, "I love you." And I named him Pookie. And yes, I loved having stuffed animals. And having that stuffed animal, I also did what I would safely say was my first version of a podcast, even though it was strictly just for me. But I had a voice and a persona and everything for Pookie. And my mom had a stereo cassette recorder in her bedroom. And I would do these shows with Pookie and myself. And we would talk and play games. And I would simulate him running from side to side by utilizing the dual microphones that the recorder had. And I'd pound my hands like this, and I'd move it across the front of the recorder so that way it would sound like he was running or whatnot. But that was, I guess, my first foray into talking outside of talking to an individual. Again, basically along the lines of a podcast, but those days were many, many, many moons in the future. Then Mia came out again, and it was a very particular instance that made Mia just literally pop into existence from wherever she had been these last 5 years. After I realized that something was different about me, it was a situation that it literally just clicked like that. And going into that, it is kind of embarrassing to say, but excuse me, growing up, I grew up poor. And the house that we were staying in was a house that my grandparents had bought in order for my mom to have some place to live. And my aunt would donate extra clothes to my mom for, her to not have to spend money on clothes and so forth. And she had done this numerous times, and there was nothing that really struck me as different. I would go through the clothes just to see what all the things are that my mom got, and that would be the end of it. This one time, though, I was going through this bag of clothes, and there were all sorts of different clothes in there and everything. And then I came across the catalyst or the switch for Mia coming into existence full time, at least as far as part of my mindset, my persona, my psyche. In that bag of clothes, I found, I'm trying to remember what in the world it was called. I think it was called a bodysuit. It was white. It had long sleeves, and it, was a one piece, and it had a snap crotch on it. And I saw that, and something clicked. I can't explain what it was that clicked. I can't describe how it clicked, but something inside me just changed. There was a new essence to my soul. And that started Mia coming into reality more and more. It started off simple enough. I would just try the clothes on. because it seemed like it was the right thing to do. And then I would find more things in the bag, and I would want to try them on. And it just progressed from there. Now you may ask yourself, Mia, did you ever get in trouble for dressing? Yeah, I did. I got my first taste of what it's like to be made to live in terror and fear of what could happen because of that. My stepdad and mom, of course, had found out about it. And to put it mildly, my stepdad was not the kindest person to ever exist. I had a very abusive childhood when he was around, to say the least. When he had found out that this is something I was doing, he made one simple threat that he was going to have me dressed up, drive me to school, which I was in 5th grade at the time, kick me out of the car, and leave, and force me to be there as a girl. That was my first foray into, holy cow, this is not right. I've got to hide who I am, because that is absolutely terrifying. Fortunately, that never happened, but Mia was in the world, and she spent a lot of time in the shadows, but yet coming into her own. Well, I will say that's probably a lot to talk about right now. I can tell I'm still recovering from COVID. My throat's not doing the best. So we're going to keep this week pretty short. Again, I hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm hoping you waited until at least Thanksgiving to get those Christmas ornaments up and start the Christmas music. Not necessarily something I'll be partaking in, but I do enjoy the fact that others do celebrate the holiday season. So with that being said, until next week, we will talk to you later. Goodbye.